So we're into the sort of third day of AIRMIC. From your point of view, how important is cyber risk management in the sort of current environment? How are you finding it?
Well, if you ask me, cyber risk management has become almost essential to any company in this day and age. I think we can all appreciate that the landscape has shifted and companies rely more and more on computer systems to just operate their businesses normally and trade normally. That also means that in case of any disruption, be it from a malicious cyber attack or any accidental outage, any company will suffer an immediate impact. And I think that impact takes three different forms. There's, of course, the immediate financial loss. You can think about the business interruption, but also all the costs associated with restarting computer systems and the business. But there's also an element of reputational damage that goes with it. And that really is one of the key drivers of a long-term potential impact on the company's well-being and financial stability. And let's not forget the third element. I think we were talking earlier about ESG, and that is also part of the cyber landscape because there could be litigation, but also regulatory scrutiny around cyber attacks. So if you ask me, it's essential. We need strong risk management that works jointly with cybersecurity, and we need appropriate budgets to deal with this.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of sort of obviously the threats, are they changing? Are we seeing new types of threats as obviously bad actors or criminals are changing their looking for ways around sort of corporate security?
I would say that at the moment we see three big trends. I would divide them into three. So the first one is ransomware, which I think that as insurers we've been talking about for 18, 24 months already. And we are definitely seeing the dynamics of that ransomware trend shifting as well. I think that in the past we were just seeing data being encrypted and ransom payments requested, but we're now seeing double or even triple ransomware. And what I mean by that is the standard ransomware, so encryption of all the company's data, coupled with data exfiltration that leads to the same kind of risks as a privacy breach, but also coupled with potentially denial of service attacks. So ransomware is a great way for hackers to monetize faster on some of the types of attacks that we used to see in the past as more common. The other element, I think, is supply chain attacks. Last year, we've seen a significant increase in this type of attacks. You can think of the well-publicized ones like Kaseya or SolarWinds, which a lot of companies are using as their service providers, and particularly in specific customer segments. Think of SME and mid-market, where most of the IT infrastructure is actually outsourced to third parties. Those supply chain attacks, those attacks against your technology vendors can have a significant impact. And the third element is, I think, still a question mark, but it's the whole escalation between Russia and Ukraine and the potential for further attacks, be it in retaliation against the Western sanctions, but also we're seeing activist groups joining the fight and potentially wreaking havoc across the business.
Obviously, I appreciate it's quite a broad question, but what sort of advice would you give to businesses and risk managers who are looking to sort of define or create their sort of cyber strategy?
It's a great question. As an industry, we definitely try to be as proactive as possible in sharing all the learnings that we can get from the claims that we're actually seeing coming in. And it comes both in the form of the questions that we ask at renewals, but also in terms of advice and thought leadership that we share with our clients. And let's not forget that cyber is not necessarily just a policy, an insurance policy. It's a full product which comes with vendor panels that can support in case of a breach. But in general terms, I'd say think about prevention and response and recovery And we're seeing that that controls such as email hygiene are exceptionally effective, for instance, because most attacks actually start from a phishing email. And linking into that, having a proper awareness training for employees, because we all know that the human is the weakest link. But also making sure that there are key controls around endpoint protection, also making sure that there is a strong vulnerability and patching management process in place that is effective and protects against vulnerabilities being exploited. And most importantly, having a structured and rehearsed and tested incident response business continuity plan. And with that, there is a growing importance of maintaining backups, particularly when it comes to ransomware attacks. Without backups, the only option that a policyholder is left with is really paying a ransom, because there's no other way of recovering from such an attack. So it's exceptionally important at the moment to maintain those strong backup procedures and those strong business continuity plans in order to be able to withstand an attack and resume operations as quickly as possible.